Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we take your stack of sources, the
Right.
research, the articles, the raw data, and we transform it into the knowledge you need.
And today, we are jumping into an era of basketball dominance that was so complete, so total, that the game itself just had to change.
We are talking about the near decade-long reign of Prime LeBron James.
It's really vital we start by, defining the scope here.
Okay.
Because the sources are adamant. This isn't just about a great player or a championship run. We're looking at his sustained prime, which is generally bracketed between, say, 2009 and 2018.
Right, a whole decade almost.
Exactly. And during that stretch, he was the dominant force in 4 separate dimensions.
4 dimensions. That sounds like a massive claim.
It is, but the source material argues that during this era, LeBron was at the same time the best athlete on the court, the highest IQ decision maker, the most impactful defensive player, and the absolute gravitational center of his team's offense. The language used by one of the analytical pieces we reviewed is really striking. It says he wasn't just playing basketball, he was solving it.
Okay, let's unpack that. Solving basketball. What does that actually mean tactically, according to these sources? Because basketball is, it's all about opposing strategies.
It means achieving a state where there's no tactical weakness that a team can reliably exploit over a 7-game series.
So you couldn't find a flaw.
Right. A team might get hot and beat him with just, unsustainable shooting or some superhuman effort, but they weren't going to beat him by finding a hole in his game. The
Right.
solution he provided was just completeness.
That sets a powerful mission for this deep dive, then. We're going to explore the components that made him this singular force. The physical reality, the offensive inevitability, his defensive identity, and just the pure mental toughness it takes to stay at that peak for so long.
We need to see why, for nearly 10 years, defenses stopped asking, how do we beat them?
And started asking, how do we merely survive him?
Let's start with the baseline physical absurdity of Prime LeBron.
Yeah, you have to. Our sources detail the sheer anomaly. He was 6'8", 250 pounds, built like a classic power forward.
But he didn't move like one. He
No.
had the vertical, the top-end speed, and the tireless endurance of an elite guard.
And what stands out to me in the sources is the historical context. Before LeBron, players that big, that strong, they were stuck in the post.
Absolutely. They didn't run the fast break, and they definitely didn't initiate the entire offense from the top of the key.
Yeah.
He was really the first player to permanently break that positional mold.
So the sources are saying he's the reason teams had to stop drafting, a center just for the paint or a guard just for the perimeter.
Exactly. They had to start drafting for versatility just to have a chance at covering him. The sources illustrate this by saying he could combine the attributes of the greats, but instantly.
How so?
He had the strength of Shaq when he decided to drive, the court vision of Magic on the fast break, and the explosive first step of Jordan against a defender who was caught flat-footed. All of it running through the mind of, an elite quarterback.
And that's where the defensive compromises came in, right?
Right.
Because you were always in a no-win situation.
Always. You put a smaller, quicker defender on him.
He posts them up. Game over.
You put a bigger, stronger player on him. He just blows right past them in transition.
So what did teams even do?
Well, that's the thing. If you guarded him one-on-one, he got to the rim and finished with a league-best percentage. If you sent the double team,
He saw it coming a mile away.
instantly, he'd identify where the help came from and whip a pass to the now open man before the defense could even react. The conclusion was inescapable. Prime LeBron was not guardable. He was manageable at best.
You're just trying to limit the damage.
Your entire playbook was just trying to force him into a slightly less efficient shot. That was your victory.
Let's transition that threat to the offensive end. One of the strongest points made in our notes was this difference between flashy scoring and inevitable scoring. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. The sources use efficiency data here. LeBron never chased high-volume stats, taking 35 or 40 shots a game.
Right, he wasn't just stat padding.
No, he sought optimal possessions. During his peak Miami years, his true shooting percentage, which is a metric that combines twos, threes, and free throws, was often above 60%.
60%.
Yeah.
That's a number for centers who only dunk.
Exactly. And LeBron did that while running the entire offense from the perimeter.
So he was never wasting possessions. It was always the right shot or creating the right shot for someone else. And that's where his playmaking comes in. The sources call him maybe the greatest playmaking forward ever.
And that's because the real weapon wasn't just his passing skill. It was his processing speed. He saw the floor 2 steps ahead.
So defenses weren't reacting to where the ball was.
No, they were already behind. They were reacting to where LeBron knew the ball was going to be, which gave his teammates that extra split second to get their shot off.
And the sources get specific about the types of passes he threw, calling them weapons. What made them so destructive?
Well, take the skip pass. The sources analyze his cross-court skip passes not just as long throws, but as strategic moves designed to completely negate weak side help.
By just throwing it over the top of everyone.
Yes. By forcing the ball over the defense, the defender who was supposed to rotate over to contest the shot was always late. Or they didn't rotate at all because the pass was just too fast, too precise. It instantly collapsed entire defensive schemes.
So he made average shooters dangerous.
He made them lethal. He delivered the ball exactly where it needed to be at the perfect time, rendering the defender totally useless. That's a form of mental control over the game.
It is. He just raised the efficiency ceiling for every single role player he ever played with. You could put 4 average shooters around him, and he'd guarantee them open looks all game.
We've established the physical threat and the mental control on offense, but what gets overlooked sometimes is his dominance on the other side of the ball.
His defensive identity, let's shift to that.
The sources label him plainly a defensive terror. And his value wasn't just athleticism, it was his insane versatility.
He could guard 1 through 5.
Genuinely. His combination of size, speed, and intelligence meant he could guard the point guard, bringing the ball up the court, and then on the next play, switch on to a center in the post.
And that versatility just eliminated isolation basketball against his teams. During his peak defensive stretch, which the sources point to as 2011 to 2014, he was absolutely a Defensive Player of the Year caliber force.
He was one of the best perimeter defenders and, at the same time, probably the best weak side help defender in the entire league.
The chase down blocks.
Those iconic chase down blocks, they're not just athletic feats, they are perfect demonstrations of weak side rotation. It's knowing the exact millisecond to commit to the block without fouling. Defense wasn't just a part of his game then, it was his identity.
This evolution is so critical, and the sources break his prime into 2 distinct eras. Tell us about the Miami years of peak perfection versus the Cleveland return of strategic control.
The Miami years, especially 2012 and 2013, are detailed as pure physical and tactical perfection. He was leaner, he was faster, he was mentally ruthless. This is where he hit those historic efficiency numbers.
And those sources said.
The critical line is that there were no weaknesses left to exploit. He was just pure explosive power, getting into the paint whenever he wanted.
So what changed when he went back to Cleveland? He was still dominant, but the sources imply it was a different kind of dominance.
It was a strategic shift. He substituted a little bit of that raw burst with just complete tactical mastery. In Cleveland, he became strategically unstoppable. The sources even note his average drive distance actually decreased.
So he wasn't relying on pure speed anymore.
Not purely. He swapped that blistering speed for perfectly timed post-ups using the gravity and respect he'd built over a decade. He was playing chess.
He was like an on-court coach, just dictating matchups, tempo, forcing the other team to play his game.
Exactly. When he needed a controlled bucket, he posted up. When he needed to push the tempo, he did. He was directing rotations and exploiting fatigue in real time. That intellectual control is why he was still at the absolute peak of the game.
And if you need the ultimate proof of that strategic and mental toughness, you have to look at the 2016 NBA Finals. It's a story we all know, but the sources analyze it with stunning depth.
It's the ultimate test of will. I mean, being down 3-1 against a 73-win team that would shatter most superstars.
A record-breaking team.
A historic team, and the sources detail how LeBron's response wasn't panic. It was disciplined, cold-blooded adjustment.
I remember watching those back-to-back 41-point games and just thinking it was pure physical absurdity. But the sources framed the block and those performances as something much deeper.
They categorized the block as pure willpower and mental mapping. He knew the exact scenario that was about to unfold.
He anticipated the whole play.
He knew Curry would pull the defense and Iguodala would leak out. It required not just the speed to catch up, but the perfect calculation to block the shot cleanly without fouling in that moment. It just embodied his mental growth. He absorbed insane pressure and delivered an answer.
The ability to always find the right answer under that kind of stress.
That was his greatest ability.
And that brings us back to this concept of gravity. He shifted entire defenses just by moving.
For a decade, he controlled the entire competitive ecosystem. The sources are so clear that rosters and defensive schemes were built specifically to try and neutralize him.
And they still failed.
They still failed. The sources summarize the shift perfectly. Before Prime LeBron, teams devised a strategy to win the game. During his prime, their strategy was focused purely on mitigating the damage he was about to do.
So to summarize the insight here, why was Prime LeBron, in this specific 2009 to 2018 window, so unique? History is full of dominant players, but very few are described as solvers.
The longevity of that elite top-tier performance is almost unparalleled. But it's the synthesis that really matters. He combined that longevity with versatility,
Yeah.
a genius-level basketball IQ, championship leadership, and physical superiority at an absolute peak for nearly a decade. He didn't just master one skill.
He mastered the entire competitive landscape.
Yes.
That mastery is the central theme. Prime LeBron was fundamentally about control. Control of space, control of pace, control of outcomes. He didn't just play the game. He bent the mathematics of the sport to his personal will.
And our source material predicts that when historians look back 50 years from now, Prime LeBron will be remembered not just as one of the best, but as maybe the most complete force the game has ever seen, which raises a really important question for you, the listener.
Go on.
What does it mean for any competitor in any field to reach a point where the only effective strategy against them is focused purely on damage limitation rather than on victory? We invite you to think about other sports. Think about what happens in tennis or golf. When one person becomes so dominant that their opponents are internally focused not on winning the event, but on just trying to get second place.
That level of absolute control is the definition of true, sustained competitive gravity.